context. And I want to go back to you, Omar, to hear more of your commentary on school integration. Still using the model of Dr. Claude Anderson, where he says, taught school integration. He also says, as opposed to busing, it would have made more sense to bring in more funding, better equipment, such as books and etc. Let's go around the table one more time.
The reason that they did not want integration in the first place was because the distribution of resources. They were sending those resources to the white schools, and they didn't want to have to send them to the black children in the black schools. The other reason, majorly, was that they didn't want white children to get a sense of inferiority when their black students would excel them. They wanted white children to continue to feel like they were superior to any black student that ever existed. So they didn't want that. And if you think about it, they're doing that even today. In the Bartlett school system, they are taking black history out of the history books. And the paragraph I read that said that the black people came over here on ships. They helped the pilgrims build cabins. They didn't come in the bottom of ships as slaves through the blood and the murder. So they're whitewashing black history. And so you can't get a fair and equitable learning process or experience in a system that's created like that. Texas system is the biggest perpetrator of lies in the country. And a lot of the school books, the people that print the school books use Texas for their model because Texas has a whole lot of students, and when they print books, they're going to distribute them across this country. And whatever Texas says for Texas goes for the nation. And you can't get it in a system that's integrated with a process like that. Mm-hmm. Black children need to learn what black children need to learn, and it's not the same thing that white children need to learn. Mm-hmm. And because you can't get it like that, you must separate. Or if you don't separate, you must have a way that you can integrate your knowledge, your understanding, your history into the system, whether they like it or not. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to do that, tell them to go to hell, we're going back to where we came from, separate segregation, and we'll create our own system, except this time we're going to demand the dollars we got to have, mm-hmm. the money we pay in taxes, we're going to demand those dollars, or give us reparations, and we'll separate from you all together.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. What should be taught to just a few of the things, to African American children in public school system or any other school system for that matter? Omar.
I look at the curriculum in the black school system. In my day, I didn't know what was going on, but they said you are STS, superior and talented student. What is? I didn't know what that was. And I said, well, you know, I'm going into high school, so I want to make sure I take the things I'd like to take. They said, no, you're not doing that. You're gonna take the things we want you to take. I like choir. They said you can't take choir because you only have 5 periods, and if you want to take choir, you got to do it on your lunch hour. So for the whole 4 years, I didn't eat lunch. Plus, I like to be in the choir, but they made me take physics, chemistry. They made me take biology. They made me take all the different maths that were available because they knew something about me that I didn't know about myself. And because they knew that, when I get ready to go to college, I got accepted. I didn't apply to but I got scholarships at all of them. But then they said go to Lemoyne because there's less discrimination at Lemoyne. I didn't pay a nickel for college the whole 4 years. But the education was superior to what I would have gotten had I integrated with them. Superior, because when I got a chance to go as a transfer student to Grinnell College, they said 4 white students to Lemoyne and 4 black students to Grinnell College. And my degree was in biology. I was with them every step of the way. I didn't lose a step. So I was doing field biology, never lost a step. And they were kind of amazed that, you know, black children can come over here and compete with these white folks. I had some good teachers, really good teachers. And so the education I got was not inferior to what they got. But then when I left Lemoyne and graduated, and to this day I can't forget what I went through. I left Lemoyne, graduated, and before I got a chance to go and teach in Syracuse, New York, at a high school there, I got a chance to go to University of Memphis. Back then it was called Memphis State, and I was going to take a creative writing class because at Lemoyne I had been doing creative writing, and I had won some contests of Reader's Digest. They said, you know how to do this thing. And I was inspired by a black teacher, Dr. Juanita Williamson. She was the one that inspired me, and she brought in a curriculum for me to suit what my skills were. So I went to the University of Memphis, and I was taking some of my pieces I had written and won money on, and I was submitting them. And guess what they were giving me?
What?
A B.
A B, okay.
And I'm thinking, this right here, I won first place at Reader's Digest, and guess who critiqued it? Ralph Ellison, the man who wrote The Invisible Man.
Right.
I got scholars that have critiqued this work and said it's the best in the country. And you give me a B? And then I look at it, I don't see a red mark on it. What's wrong with it? You didn't put nothing on it except B.
Right.
B what? But again, you can't fight that kind of discriminatory educational system. You can't fight it. So what do? You leave it.
Okay, yeah.
And you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because you got enough to learn when you learn just the discipline inside the subject matter. Then you got to deal with racism on top of it. You ain't got time for that. You can't build a civilization fighting that kind of war when you got to fight the war of teaching your children where they need to be. Because education is really about survival, the survival of a people. And if we don't teach them about survival, we're not going to be. We're not here now. We're almost on our way out if we don't change. Every slave was not brainwashed. There was some that, like Nat Turner, that woke up, and you couldn't put them back to sleep.
Right.
So there are a lot of slaves that were undercover, but they were awake. And many slaves were like that. And like what did the lady say? I could have saved more if they had only known.
Right.
Because some of them didn't know. That's all they knew. But when you wake up, and I woke up, it's hard to go back to sleep. Look, that woke me up. I was already on my way being woke up. That woke me up. And look, I have never gone back to sleep again. Our people got integrated, and they thought they had arrived. But they arrived in what I call the illusion of inclusion. And they still under that illusion that they're thinking that, you can trust them, they'll be all right. But every now and then I go back and read this man right here, this white priest from Spain, who talks about what they did to the people down in South America and down in Cuba. And the way he talks about the atrocities. It's like, when these soldiers were about to leave one of these kingdoms down here, he asked one of the princes to go with him. And the prince said, I'm not leaving my people. He said, if you don't go, I'm going to cut your ears off. He said, I don't want to leave my people. And so the man reached out with a sword and cut his ears off. And the guy who was bleeding said, I'm still not leaving my people. And this man, he said, with a smile, the soldier reached his sword out and cut his nose and lips off, and then he left with a smile. What kind of man is that barbaric?
Right.
But you can take innocent people who've done nothing to you except show you hospitality and murder them like that. But the Holy Spirit that this man writes, and he is a priest, he writes 54 pages of what they did to those people. And those people did nothing to harm them. Nothing. They came there for gold. They gave them gold, but they didn't have enough gold, so they made them go and dig more gold. And the way the barbarism that they committed against these people, look, everyone was dug up and killed again. That's how barbaric they were. Women, they would impregnate women, and then they would sell them on the auction block, and if they were pregnant, they say, you're getting 2 for 1. Because when you have a baby, there's another slave coming out of the womb. That's how they treated those people back then. Who can deal with somebody like that? And those people have not changed. Every continent on this earth, America has a war. They fought somebody to take their resources. Like Donald Trump said, go take the oil. That's his attitude, because that's America's attitude. And it won't change. America will not change. This is not one nation under God. This is one nation under Satan. They have never had a nation under God, ever. It's whatever they can strong enough to take, that's what they'll take. And if you don't want to give it to them, they'll take it from you and murder you in the process. They were talking about eulogizing George Bush. This man was a drug dealer. In fact, the president of Panama, Noriega's in prison, they were drug dealing together. He was a CIA director bringing drugs in this country. He ain't nobody to eulogize. He should be hung for his crime. But this is the history of this country, written in the blood of innocent people. How can you put together a school system if you're not going to teach the truth?
Okay. All right. 901-452-3094 or 901-324-7490. Those are the numbers to call to join us on today's show. Dale, you wanted to say something.
I did, Brother Red. And let me say
Go
this.
right ahead.
I want to do an extension of what we just heard from Brother Rudy.
Okay.
Here is the difference, though. In 1890, Plessy versus Ferguson. 1954, Brown versus Board of Education. The difference was, it said that we discovered, after 60 years of us deciding what we was going to divide up, we found that separate was anything other than equal. And so that was where the whole concept of quote integration came from. Now, let me say this about integration 2018. Right now, the Shelby County School Board is for the first time getting around to having needs-based budgeting. In other words, the amount of money it takes to run a 9 through 12 school located in Whitehaven might be different than a 9 through 12 school in Collierville or some other portion of Shelby County, because the parents at maybe not Whitehaven but at Cobb or whatever, that parent maybe work at Burger King in the day, McDonald's in the evening. So they're going to need somebody to make certain that when the kids get out of school, they continue to get some kind of supplement and encouragement for education. They're going to need to make sure the children have a balanced meal in the morning, a balanced meal in the evening. It might cost more to ensure proper education in this neighborhood versus that neighborhood. And to wit, the government owes every one of its citizens an equal opportunity. That's my approach to this question about would we have been better off without integration. I understand that the people we had when the integration did come along in the 70s, the people who were in charge of integration were the same ones who had supervised segregation. So, and their own ruling in 1954 said, well, we found after a 60-year experiment, we discovered that separate was anything other than equal. So they recognized the wrong of their own ways. And so to wit, was it the proper decision in 1954? Yes, it was. I'm better. I think that I'm better off with that decision as opposed to that decision having gone the opposite direction.
The opposite direction being
meaning that they repealed Plessy versus Ferguson as opposed to upholding Plessy versus Ferguson. Plessy versus Ferguson had ruled. It said separate is okay. And one of the ways you can test whether or not separate is okay, get two of your children, give them $1, give them a cake or something, and tell the oldest one, here's the cake, you divide it, and you pick first, and watch who will always end up with the biggest piece. The one, if he's cutting the cake and picking the cake first, he will always wind up with the biggest portion of the cake.
well, now wait a minute. I'm going to have to challenge.
That's what was happening during the days of segregation. That's what Brown versus the Board of Education found in this country.
Okay.
That when you got this racist school board here dividing up the resources of the governmental resources of this community, they tend to always do it to their own advantage.
Okay. I'll buy that part of it. The part that I was going to go to, I'll come to that later, is this more sociological part, or psychological, if you will, of exception of certain, and we use this example, of certain children in certain families, especially the elders. But let's come to that later. Now you have clarified your point. Talut, all of that, separate but equal, equal but equal, integration, etc., halt school integration. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, integration has never been appealing to me. I never thought it as a positive thing at all, in fact. My children went to Sister Clara Muhammad School.
Well, let
private school.
Let me add something in there while you go forward. I do like what Dale Gill said earlier, and my son Kevin here.
I think we have some legitimate points around the table.
We do.
We really do.
But now we don't want to, if we say separation, they said it doesn't mean you are not able to blend in and function in a broader society. Go right ahead.
Yeah. And like I was mentioning, my children went to Sister Clara Muhammad School. And they've done very well with their lives.
Yes.
Okay, very well. And the point is, they did not go to an integrated school. Now, in contrast, if I look at the children of today who went to integrated school, I don't see the population faring very well.
Okay. Good enough point.
I see that not only they aren't faring well, we have a huge population of youth today who are finding it difficult to respect, to care, to be productive, to do the things that they need to do as human beings. So that's why I mentioned the fact that education is more than getting a diploma and then go find a job. Education is building humanity, it's building a human being. The fundamental blocks that's necessary to build a human being. That human being then would decide with his educational base what it is that he or she wants to do with their lives.
Yes.
But to just railroad our children into public school and then railroad them into the corporate environment is not helping us as a people. And I individually, yeah, there are some people who not very well. The other thing is this book that was published in the 1862, the Society for the Colonization of Negroes, meaning that in that era there were people who were interested in colonizing our people, you know, colonizing our people into becoming what they thought that we ought to be.
Yeah.
So the freedom of the aspiration, the freedom of spirit, the freedom to think as you see fit to think is what we are after. We're not, I don't think we're so much after the material stuff. I think that's part of it, but I think what we want to become is independent thinkers and men and women who are capable of building our own society as we see fit. Not as they see fit or those over there see fit, as we see fit. Now, that type of independence comes with education. You got to be taught how to think like that. Okay? Because if we go along with society, we're going to end up in one of these warehouses somewhere, or you know, throwing bales of cotton on our shoulder. So what we really need to do is become independent thinkers and suffer the consequences of our decisions. If we fail, then we fail. Nobody else calls us to fail, we fail. If we're successful, then we are successful because we came together with our brain power and produced that success.
Okay. All right, thank you, Talu. Kevin Red, I think you're the youngest on this panel. And you graduated since all of us. What was your experience? Share with us in period, from the beginning until the Marines and what you see now with Jalen and all that. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, Marines and the U.S. Coast Guard.
Oh, really? Congratulations.
Yeah, locally here in Memphis.
I'm a Marine too.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that part, yeah. That was a real eye opener. Speaking of segregation, you know, I'm coming out of high school, and well, elementary too. It was just black and white. You know, unlike this generation, like my son's school, there's probably 5, 6 different nationalities there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Black and white, and I guess my age, I think by the time I hit elementary was not too long after segregation, probably, I think, wasn't it? You know, so I was in school with other whites. Now what, I don't know, personally, any day economic, but this is my belief as I got older that there was only a certain class of white people in those schools with us blacks too. I think some of those other whites from maybe living at a home and a family of a pretty large income. When integration started, I'm sure they started, opening up their own private schools, like one that he had his folks go to.
Sister Clara,
so like right now, we can go to certain white communities. And there's plenty of private schools. Some of them are set up right there in their churches. So that's just to say that if they had been with the power and the money they had, those that had it, they weren't going to be getting educated with us anyway. So that's one thing about starting at school. Now, as I went on through, I could tell that certain resources that at certain public schools we did not have, where some other schools did have. And I had plenty of used books, and like what he was saying about education at home, because in certain classes, a lot of stuff I learned about my history from well after high school, but they wasn't teaching it, you know what I'm saying? And I know I saw that to be, and until I got to high school, Whitehaven High School, I had less black teachers too prior to that, as far as elementary. So the elementary right there out in Raleigh and North Memphis, every single elementary teacher I had was white. You know what I'm saying? It's by the time I got to high school, I had both races of teachers. Yeah, and yeah.
All right.
But now I feel now high schools it has improved. I mean, and there's they offer them a lot more. You know what I'm saying? They got other programs. If you meet your GPAs and your grades, you meet that. True enough, you probably be. And he probably can speak on that. You probably are going to be in a different class, different teacher, whereas your what we're looking for,
socialization.
Their peers. I'm sorry.
Okay, peers.
You're gonna have quality for select peers gonna be in that other class. And he's probably gonna get some other teachers, whereas he may not get where that other student will get.
Sure.
And I think they also, as far as funding, they've done well on some of the new schools. They've been pretty large, very large, and got a lot more resources, and trying not to, trying to have 30 or 40 of them in a classroom, because that never was going to work. That never worked in school.
Right.
Yeah, you get to the point where they can easily have a teacher so frustrated she couldn't teach because she gonna have some ready to learn, some
But now,
food.
30 or 40 or more at the university level is less of a problem. When we're talking about smaller classes, we're talking about early.
You're talking about,
That's
right.
what
We're talking about
early.
elementary and high school.
Right. Bishop, more on integration, and say something about busing, more funding, and better equipment, books, and etc.
Well, there's a lot that we need to do to improve our schools. So even if it will come a time that there would be more separate schools, there still has to be an improvement of our present day schools, and funding plays an important part. That was the whole thing where even when integration happened, certain people started moving out, and then certain funds went with them. That's the whole debate even now when you talk about private schools or like charter schools, and how they say it's not going to hurt the public school, but when certain students leave, the dollars go with them. So funding's important. And really, if you're going to draw good quality families into neighborhoods, nobody wants to pay high taxes and then the schools are not properly funded. You can have great ideas for schools, and we've talked around this issue all day, but if you're going to have quality schools, then you got to have the teacher training plays a part. Parents still got to be on board. Even when you get a school and you think it's a great school, you just don't dump your child off and still not be involved. Because the bottom line is, just like in hospitals, doctors and nurses tend to take better care of patients when the families show up more. It's the same thing in school. I taught in school. And so when parents show up all the time, then you're like, you pay a little more attention. It's just human nature. But some parents will drop the child off and never check on them, never. I used to say this, now that's the school part, but in church I used to tell parents, I said, now figure it out. The average child, if you asked them how was school today, many of the children say, oh, it was great. Every day, great. Every day, good. Then the report card comes, and you got all these F's and D's.
Okay.
And I know I'm just going another direction with it, but you got to deal with parents. Parents have to be educated as well. And many times they're sending children to school, and some of these children did not, some of the parents didn't either finish their education or for whatever the reason is. So sometimes it helps the schools. You got to train the teachers, but then parents also got to be willing to learn as well. We got to combat this problem not from one direction, but from every direction.
Okay.
Parents got to, and it's like I said on the other station, when people always come to me and say, teachers ain't what they used to be, and I say, and parents are what they used to be. Because I don't see too many parents today that was like my mom was. If I even looked like I was going to the left, she was showing up. And, but boy wants to be embarrassed, So again, parents don't show up. It helps to break down the system. That's not taken away from what the schools have to do, but I'm saying if we're going to improve education, and you used the word earlier about reform, but from what much has been said today, it sounds like a transformative thing. Not just reforming it, not putting a Band-Aid on it, but teacher improvement, parent improvement, administrator improvement, and the community holding people responsible. Because often we put people in positions and then we don't hold them accountable. And I don't care if they're black, brown, red, yellow, or white. They must be held accountable.
Okay, all those words work for me. We've got Adimu Ali's book on sale right here. The Oneness of God by Adimu Ali. On sale at the Love Power Show. Come on by and pick up your copy right here, right now. Give us a call at 901-452-3094 or 901-324-7490. Since you spoke so much about parenting, I'm going to skip down. I was going to hold that question for later on, but let us go to it right now. And Omar, we've put together a list of 12 points on the Love Power Show for parenting. Let's go around the table. Khalud, I want you to get on this one. Is our situation as a people, black people, African Americans, so dire that we need parenting classes? And let me say one more thing about that. I know a school. I know someone who works at this school, and they both are near and dear to my heart. When you have events that are important to the children, attendance is slim. But oh no, when you have events around food, and do not say anything about taking pictures. There's a flood of parents, mostly women, very few men. But I will say that this whole father question is improving. It's getting better. Omar, what about that question?
You know, back in my day, there was a father in the home. So you didn't get out of order. And there were fathers in the neighborhood. But let's go back and just reflect back. Right now, in the public school systems in America, 73% of black children are taught by white teachers. And that's a negative for us because we need our children to see us in those roles. That's why I took black scientists and put on my wall. The book had white scientists in it. They're going to give you that. I want them to see themselves in science so they can see that they can do what these pioneers that came before you did. But if I got white teachers all over the place and black teachers are hard to find, then black children feel like they can't aspire to be in that position because it's not for us. They have to have a picture of inspiration so they can know what to aspire to, and they don't have it in the school system. Used to be that when you got out of order, they discipline you in the school. Now it's a police matter. The police are called on little trivial mess.
Yeah.
Because the teacher was afraid for her life or whatever the hell it is. But that's what they do.
Omar.
That's true.
It is
We
true.
should have, we really, look, my wife and I were foster parents for 8 years. And we right now writing a book called The Tie That Binds.
Okay.
Because we realized that the behavior that came into that house with us came from the parent that produced the child. And often, the parent was not a good parent. And often because they had no parenting skills, they were brainwashed by the media to believe that what they were doing was right. And I say brainwashed because the other day I was at a rental property doing some electrical work with my electrician, and I couldn't see the TV, but I could hear the TV in the next room. And this was a TV program about some little boy talking about his booty was big enough that everybody should want it. And obviously the little boy was gay, but then so was the parent. The parent was allowing the conversation to go on. And the parent every now and then would say something, and you got your two little girls there, elementary age girls, but you got your teenage son there who's in middle school. And he's looking at this stuff, and you're intently looking at it while you're combing your children's hair. What kind of parenting is that? You're exposing your children to the ills and immorality of this world, and you think nothing of it. And then when the child goes out there into the madness and takes that behavior he learned from TV with him, because he brainwashed to believe that it's okay, since you said it was okay. You chose the channel, and you allowed him to watch the madness. In my house, there was something on TV. It was I think they call it, I can't think of what it was, but I get to it. But it was a video of a white man in the bathtub with his daughter, a little baby girl like 1 or 2 years old, taking a bath. And the white man was saying that Jesus was a pimp and Mary was a hoe. I'm hearing it, and my foster children listening. I said, "What the hell are you looking at?" Adult Swim was the name of it. On TV, it's an adult cartoon.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
I had to go take the TV remote control. I don't have a one TV because you ain't gonna watch nothing I can't see.
Right.
Sorry about that. Even for my own children, I monitor TV because I know that's nothing but a brainwash. And I don't want you to be brainwashed the wrong way because then I got to unbrainwash you. So I had to take the TV and program it so that you couldn't get to that channel no more. But again, parenting has to take place, and it's got to be more vigilant today than it ever was. Back then we had 3 channels, now we got 300 channels. So you got to be more vigilant today. And then like the brother said, you got to go to that school. My children, they went to public school. They started out at Marcus Garvey. I knew what was in public school. And I didn't want them to go and be exposed to that. They started out with Marcus Garvey, and eventually went to a Hamlet school, but they also went to, Lamont Owen, Hollis Price Middle College, Mays, Memphis Academy of Sciences, because I knew where I wanted them to go. I want you to go into the field I'm in, science. And I know I don't want you to be around no sports. I don't care who plays sports before you, you ain't playing none. And I ain't with that. Don't bounce no balls.
Okay.
There's too many other things in the world that's got to take place before you get to a ball.
Okay.
I don't even watch it. So don't you worry about it. And my daughter want to be a cheerleader. No, you ain't cheering nothing. You ain't none of that. You're gonna go where I'm telling you to go, and you're gonna get there, and you're gonna have a good, successful career.
Okay.
But again, you gotta guide your children, and if you don't guide your children, you can't tell what they're gonna end up at. I'm looking at all these athletes that are multi-millionaires on day one, and 7 years later they broke and filed in bankruptcy. Something wrong with that picture. I don't want you to go down that path. Let them have it. But parents have to be parents today. If you're not gonna be a parent, you don't have children. Don't have children. If you're not gonna be a parent, quit having children. Because if I got to parent your children, you didn't need them in the first place. And right now, that's evident because the prison system has so many of our children. 2.3 million either in prison, on parole, on probation, but they got a felony on their record. And we can't stop the tide, the ebb and flow of that prison system unless we become better parents in our household. Then we can change that whole dynamic. But until we become parents, the parents that we should be, and quit going with these cartoon parents on TV, then we're not going to change our reality.
Yes, sir.
We got to do it. And we can't wait for the white man to tell us to do it. We got to, but back then, everybody in the neighborhood was a parent. Everybody. Your next door neighbor was a parent. She was just as much a parent to you as your mom and daddy were. And if you got in trouble, she whooped you and you got another whooping when you got to the house. That's the way it was, and that's the way it needs to go back to be.
Yes.
Okay, 901-452-3094 or 901-324-7490. Omar said something about understanding and comprehending one's reality. I want to hear something from a female's perspective. Miss Erica Pearson is here with us. Erica Stotts Pearson. All right, so as a people, black people and African Americans, is our situation so dire that we need parenting classes? So we raise that question because we must be saying something is wrong, something is there. Was there a time when we didn't need this, and do we need this today? Your perspective.
Well, the shape that society is in right now, and being former clergy, we can tell that it's a problem in our world right now. Just coming off of a political race, running for Congress, in different parts, even within my district, you see different attitudes, right? So we would think because you're in a district that has affluence, that the children would be better. Not necessarily. I mean, in one part of my district, they have a school. I think they spent over $150 million to build the high school. It's supposed to have all the great technology and, all the bells and whistles. But we're seeing in those areas that kids have a lot of drug use and, things are not as they appear to be at home. Right, so then we segue over to just right up the street where my charter school is, Memphis Academy of Health Sciences, right here where the radio station is. You would think that these kids can't necessarily achieve, and that's not necessarily the case because of their environment, but it's what goes on inside that institution of higher learning for them. So what we are learning in the clergy community, and I think in government, is that it's a recent study said that most adults are walking around with about 14 to 25 adverse childhood experiences. So the government and everybody is latched on to ACEs, but preachers, we've been preaching about ACEs for forever. So the kids have problems in being a former educator because the parents have problems. So they have these adverse childhood experiences. So we'll give you an example. If I, as a kid, felt unsafe, unloved, and so nobody was really pouring knowledge or information into me, and then I had sexual abuse, poverty, and all of these factors, right? Just looking at that, the world would say I'm a statistic, right? And so now I'm placed in a classroom with someone who has those same experiences, but somehow now they're put in charge of me. So they're able to mask it, and it may look like I'm learning because I talk with some of these people, and they have traumas because now the traumas that they deal with, they now internalize into the children that they educate. So, I become a pedophile because I had an adverse childhood experience where I had molestation. And so because of that, and then we're throwing teachers into situations where they're not prepared. Young teachers come out with the curriculum that just says, I'm an educator, but they don't really know anything about classroom management. They don't know anything about child psychological skills, because the class that they give you is so brief. I mean, it's not enough to, so they really need to bring those home visits back again, because once you internalize your students' environment, then you can program how to teach them, right? Because I can't just pick you up and dump you somewhere and then say, oh, the state gave me this and I've got to teach you with it. No, I've got to encompass every aspect of you, socially, economically, spiritually, all of those things. Your environment, everything plays a factor, right? And that's how I then in turn program lessons for you, because you're going to learn based on your reality. So a rich kid may have another reality, but a kid that lives in the hood, it's not like they're not rich, because they hood rich. They got Jordans, so they rich. They got phones, because new teachers think, well, they couldn't possibly have anything. Well, they got more stuff than I could take you to a kid in Germantown that has, seriously, because their parents aren't going to buy them all that stuff, right? So they have all of the trappings of the world, but they don't have the things that internally sustain them. Right? So their frame of reference is going to be from trappings. So guess what? As a teacher, I've got to teach them from the trappings, because I've got to bring that into my world, deconstruct it, and reconstruct a new reality for them.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your commentary. So many of our students are trapped. Yes. And so therefore, Brother Dale Gill, how about this idea of cooperative group learning as opposed to individualism? Is there a way to break out of the trap?
What I just heard you say was public education. That's what I just heard.
Okay, go with it.
Well, that's what I heard. That's my simple response to it. That's public education.
It's public.
That's
okay.
Cooperative group learning. That's what public education is. Now, I admit it's a little bit.
Is that what it is, or is that what it's supposed to be?
It's a little bit. It's a little bit cookie cutter. It's a little bit cookie cutter.
Because is that what we really see?
It's hard to get that individualized
I tell you what,
approach that Ms. Pearson talked about, except or say that you send a child to a private school.
Okay, because I'm going to beg you one. That what it's supposed to be is not what we see. What we see is individualism. And let me go a step further. That individualism is what is killing the African American / if you will, Omar, black community. But you say it's public school system. I'm with you. I'm a big supporter of public school system. Doesn't mean I'm not a supporter of the other.
I did not say that you cannot get a private school education in a public school.
Okay.
But I did say that for the most part, public schools, it's a larger swath, it's a larger cut.
Yes.
It's not nearly as definitive as private school. That's why private schools are private schools.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's come on to you, Talu. Cooperative and group learning as opposed to individualism.
Well, there's a distinct difference between the two. There's no question about that. An individual could educate him or herself.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
In fact, most truly educated people educated themselves.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when it comes to group academics, then we are primarily talking about a relationship between corporate America and the education system. Corporations put in their requests for a type of person that they would hire. So meaning that they primarily assist in putting together the curriculum that's necessary for that individual to graduate and come out with their certificate or whatever they're going to come out with, their degrees or whatever, and be hireable for the corporation. Okay. Now I'm a promoter of individual responsibility. Okay. And now I'll give you an example. When I was in this little old school called State Tech back in 19XXXXX.
Okay.
And I was a student of accountancy. Okay, computer accounting. I had a double major at that time. And when it got to the point where I need to take this 10-key calculator, I protested.
You did?
Yes, I said, no, I'm not going to take this course.
Okay.
I'm not going to need it, and I'm not going to take it. Can I graduate with some other type of course? But because the corporation has structured everything in the way they wanted to have it, then the president of the school said, no, you can't do that. Because I passed the council, I went on to the president in my protest. Okay. And in fact, I was telling him, no, I'm going to school so I can run my own business. Which I had, I owned salon, steak, and take restaurants. I had 4 restaurants. So I was just going to school to learn how to do the necessary things that a good executive need to know how to do. I didn't want to get a job where I'm going to be calculating for somebody all day. But anyway, I couldn't do it. Okay, so I didn't accept the graduation. I said, no, I'm not going to accept it because I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, I didn't get hurt. You know, as I look back on the years gone by, it didn't hurt.
Right.
I mean, I didn't need any of it, and I still don't need any of it. And that's the problem with corporate education. You have to go to school to learn all kinds of things that you're not going to apply in your life.
Right.
Period.
And this corporation set this curriculum up, wanted you to sit on some job somewhere and count someone else's money.
All day, all
And
day.
you wanted to count your own money.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Let's take this call. Hung up? All right, let's go on to the next. Kevin, what about this? This cooperative and group learning as opposed to individualism. When you were in, and then you went to State Tech too, didn't you? For a little while. Did you ever experience any group learning or group projects, etc.?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Okay.
There was some where they required or suggested you do it for the better of you all, academically, or better for you all to learn that class. So, yeah. But yeah, now, back when he said, that's true, and I believe some kids, even today, they still are like feeling in their head, why I gotta take this? I mean, what is this? What is, in what way is this gonna be help me? I don't want to do this. I ain't gonna be doing nothing in the workforce.
That requires this, right?
Right. But right, as far as now, it's true it always will be corporate America. Yeah, they want looking for select people for certain jobs. Yeah, just like you want lawyers, want other lawyers, firm on lawyers. You got to go to law school and take every required thing there is to become a lawyer. And then after law school, you still got to go, what is a board, and go take the, you know what I'm saying? So you go through all that and you don't pass that before, you still can't even be a lawyer. Or a doctor, same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, let me ask Omar this question. Omar, when we're talking about parenting, school integration, private, public schools, etc., he says, Dr. Claude Anderson, controlled, independent, and public schools. That's what he says. And I guess he's putting the independence in there as a model because there will be some independent schools that African American / black people will go into. Let's take this call right quick. I think that hung up last time. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Mr. Wallace, this is P. Moses calling.
Hey, P. Moses.
I just wanted to chime in because you were talking about something very important, which is education. And I do agree with whoever that was saying education had a lot to do. My grandmother was a school teacher in a segregated school called Mary High in Jackson, Tennessee. And my mother was the child plaintiff. And also, she was a school teacher for many years. And I would say that the quality of public education, not just in Madison County, but in Tennessee as a whole, is very inequitable because when I had the opportunity to attend the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, I also got to see how Maryville, which is the #1 school district, public school district in the state, I got to see actually how the children and the parents, the type of education they got, and it was really mind-boggling to think that they provided computers to second graders, 20 years ago in Maryville School District. So, my grandmother was part of the old thing, and my mother was part of the integrated or the desegregated part of it, and then I was a part of the integration.
Okay.
And I would say since that time span that the quality has decreased enormously for public schools, and it's not based on just race, it's based on economics, because you can be poor white trash, and I don't mean to offend anybody by saying that, but that's just a figure of speech that white and black people use. But you can be poor white trash in Maryville, which I think is Blount County, and you could get a quality education because 93 to 95% of the children that attend their public schools graduate. And that's the reality of it, that if your socioeconomics allows you to be poor in a well-to-do community, you can still get a good education. But if you're poor and black in Shelby County, you're going to have to pay for that type of education. So I really think that segregation was a good thing for black people because it made us work harder.
Did we lose her? Are you still there? P. Moses?
Here.
Okay, go ahead.
I said it forced us to work harder. We're segregated, and I've recently made acquaintance with some. Most of them are predominantly Caucasian over at the Clark Center, and some of them are Christian, some of them are just pretty progressive. But they are homeschooling their children, and they have an actual group of people who have the same ideologies and the same philosophies, and they have a certain standard for their children in which they have gotten together and they've created a network. And I really think that until public schools get the resources that they need to be competitive with other, types of schools, charter schools, private schools, that we are going to be failed, and we need to save ourselves, and we need to start creating networks like this and having homeschools where if you have morals and values and you want your children to have those same morals and values, you want them to learn, because learning is different. The things we learned 20 years ago are really obsolete as to what Toulouse was saying about the kind of education. They're learning at a rapid rate. We're almost like cell phones, our children at this point. They're coming out knowing how to swipe the cell phones, use the tablet. So they're learning at a rapid rate, but the educators are not coming in at a rapid rate. They're going out. You don't even have to have tenure anymore. That's what we're talking about our private network rather than schools.
All right. Well, we thank you for your call, Miss P. Moses. Good call. And back to you, Omar. There's a book by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, The Conspiracy to Destroy Young Black Boys, and I think you've spoken to this. Is his book relevant today? And when you look at that picture, it says a lot. The picture talks about how young boys come in all enthusiastic, and after a while That's no longer the case. And also, while you're at it, Omar, this question about economics has come up. Economics is very important. And should we be taking a look at economics early in the family, perhaps before politics? A double question, if you will.
Let's go back a little bit in time. The slavery, when it was a crime to teach a black person to read. It was a criminal act. Even if it was reading the Bible. And then he evolved to, if you want to hide it from a Negro, put it in a book.
Yes.
Because you condition him not to even touch a book, because the master saw you touching a book, you got punished. But after slavery, black folk had such a serious knowledge for learning, they built their own school. They didn't wait for the government to build it. They had a one-room schoolhouse with a dirt floor. And they built their own schools. They were just that serious about learning. And that kept on and on and on, even until my day. There was still a serious thirst for knowledge. But integration, where, like Malcolm said, he said he wanted to be a lawyer. And the teacher told him he don't need to be a lawyer because nobody would patronize him, even his own people wouldn't. And she was trying to downplay him and his enthusiasm for his profession, that she wanted him to go into a menial job type profession. So that's there. It was more evident, you know, in his day, but it's still there. It's subtly done today. And that's why I say we can't do it inside of their system. We got to have our own system. We need to come out of their system. Come out of it and do our own system so we can get rid of those things. Otherwise, we need to hire teachers that reflect the community. If you got a school system like in Memphis, if we got 7% black folks, we should have at least 7% black teachers. If the school has that kind of ratio, then that should represent the population in that particular area. You can't do it no other way. You can't do it. And I'm just sorry that it sounds like segregation, but it ain't segregation. On the black dollars.
Yes.
We got 1.3 trillion black dollars. And if we just took our black dollars and did what we did for ourselves, what they're doing for themselves with our black dollars, because they're not spending it on us, they spend it on themselves. If we just did for us with our money, and we pay taxes. The biggest thing they got is how to avoid paying taxes. Everybody in black America that's got a job pay taxes and they can't afford it. So if we take our black dollars and spend it on our black sales, then we can advance ourselves just in that area. But I look at some other things too, though.
Okay.
We talk about this education piece and integration. I know Japanese in Memphis that have a Saturday school for Japanese to learn how to be a good Japanese. A good friend of mine who's a professor at the University of Memphis, Dr. Kong, Sing T. Kong, everybody who graduates from the University of Memphis who's Chinese, he tracks them and makes sure they get a good job. And they have Chinese schools in Memphis that teach them how to be a good Chinese, how to stay connected to China. And he goes to China frequently. And he hooks up with Chinese merchants to try to find them good deals and good contracts in America they can sell their products to. They have a serious connection to their culture. We want to run from culture. We want to go to France and every place else on earth except back to the homeland and make a connection to our people, because the products they sell, we can use them right here if we would connect with them. And instead of having $1.3 trillion bouncing around in America, we could have several $1 trillion bouncing around on the earth. And we would go back to our own country and connect with our people. And then create industry and jobs for our people. We got to come out of this mindset. I'm reading this book called The Jewish Phenomenon, 7 Keys to Enduring Wealth. And one of them says is develop and demonstrate an informed literate habit. Create education, expectation, and constant stress is important. We don't do that. We always talk about bouncing the ball. I got some folks coming off now, they child want to bounce a ball and he gonna make mama rich. No. Less than 1% of those that bounce the ball will ever get to the NFL, and even less than that will be rich. So mama quit dreaming like that. Find your child another path to take, because that ain't the one. But she feels like that's it because some other black person, well, that's brainwash. I wish they would do this too. Outlaw sports in high school. Outlaw it. You want to play sports in that day, then play with some private company somewhere. Not on the school grounds. In Finland, there is no sports. Everybody comes to school for education. in most foreign countries, there's no college sports either. You want to play sports? They have plenty of companies that hire you to play sports for them. They don't do it at the college level. And it should be like that in America. If it don't be like, it should be like that at every black college. Because all they're doing is pimping you, and you have been pimped enough. You was pimped on the plantation, you don't need to be pimped off the plantation. So we need to change the way we look at it. If they want to continue with what they're doing, do it. But we should be part of it. Let's create our own destiny, follow our own path, and we'll get to where we're trying to go to.
Okay, Del Gill,
Yes.
retraining educational teams. If what we're saying here today, Omar just finished speaking, do our educational teams, teachers, etc., those of us who would work intricately with these teams, need to be retrained?
The answer to that question is technology is going to always dictate that you adjust the curriculums in school to match what the needs are of the marketplace. We live in a marketplace economy. And so the answer to that question is that it's always in a state of flux. There's always a need to match up the needs of the marketplace with the product that's coming out of the training institution and training processes. So the answer to that question is an easy yes.
An easy yes, he said. All right, let's go to the final and last question for today and get ready for our meeting. That is, Talib, economics and the marketplace for African Americans, black people.
Yes. Well, you know, you can't have the best of all worlds. Okay, we have to decide. We have to make a decision. What is it going to be important to us as a people? You know, it's 45 million of us, probably more, in this United States of America. In some cases, we all think alike. There's very little diversity. I think you can talk to a guy on Malcolm X Street up there in New York, Manhattan, ask him some questions. You can ask the same question to the guy in Los Angeles who happen to be African Americans, and they'll answer the question almost alike. Okay, so education, as we have been trained to believe, hasn't given us what we really have to have. Okay, see, if we're going to be competitive in the world, and it's okay to go to school, get your education, and get a job. All of us can't think like that. Some of us have to think in terms of what is it that the world is demanding for us or from us. What is it how are we going to get into this international competitiveness? You know, how are we going to rake in the billions of dollars? Like, look, one Caucasian guy rakes in billions of dollars. 45 million can't do it. What is the problem? It's not a problem, really. It's our mindset. It's how we think. We have to change the way we're thinking, as Dr. Omar just mentioned. We cannot think the same way across the board. Look, if we continue to surrender our children over to the other ethnic group and have them to prepare them for the future, we don't know their game plan for us. We just trust that they're going to educate our children to get a good job. Well, the world is saying no. Educate your children to be competitive in the world. To compete against the Chinese, compete against the Japanese, compete against the Italians, compete against the Germans, compete against everybody in the world until you have your share of the world. Now, is that too big of a thought? No, it's not too big of a thought, because see, what has to happen is somebody just take the little snowball of international competitive and just start rolling it. It may take a long time to get to the big ball, but the ball has to start rolling. Okay, so let's roll the ball. Let's look. If our children, and I tell you, it hurts my heart when I drive through this community and I look at all these young men doing nothing. Thousands. I ride from one side of the city to the next side there, thousands. Idle boys and idle girls. Okay? Now, what do we have to lose? We don't have anything to lose. If we decide, look, we're going to be this, we have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain. Now, final thought, if we pick the ball up and start rolling that ball for our children, the ball rollers are not going to get left out because the snow is on their hands too. You know, it's just the way we have to stop. We have to get that imaginary white man out of our heads. And once we do that, we'll begin to do the things that God Almighty wants us to do as human beings. It's not a man thing either, Brother Wally. It's a God thing too.
All right, thank you. We're up against the clock for this segment. Let's have some final thoughts, and we'll wrap up this section for today. 30 seconds each, starting with you, Kevin Red.
All right. I thought so. It's been a very informative for me. Eye-opener. It's my first time here.
Yeah, I think
And
you've
I
done
just,
pretty good.
I just met some great men I see. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and women, I'm sorry. Yeah, she came a little later. I apologize. Back to, with the segregation topic, integration, right, I'm back to it. I was glad that subject, and I like everybody's out their own opinions and how they feel what could change about it. But like some the last lady called in, I have no problem with it. I think it has been a good thing because, I mean, this is also somebody, as I've always said, and coming from the military showed me that, and I felt like, yeah, to have started to be amongst all those different nationalities, train and educate with them, and I was like, that's a good thing, because in this world, this real world, once you are finished education, you're gonna somehow have to compete with them, work with them, and so forth. So, what better way than to start also training with them and getting educated with them?
Yes, sir. Dale Gill.
Yes, sir.
Final thoughts, and let's wrap it up for this segment.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and talk about an important topic,
Yes,
education,
anytime.
particularly education in Memphis and the challenges that we face. Again, I believe that, as we say at the Whitehaven Empowerment Zone, we talk about the fact that we have to meet the challenges of technology and the challenges of a worldwide market. Our students in competition worldwide.
That's right.
With kids from that part of the world, this part of the world, and that other part of the world.
That's right.
And so we have to always remember that. And I'm not just talking about, as Talud had spoken earlier, not just a job. It's also about entrepreneurial opportunities as well. The marketplace dictates both. It dictates entrepreneurial opportunities as well as job opportunities. It's the challenge of how do we continue to evolve and carry out our mission of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Miss Erica Stotts Pearson, final thoughts.
Well, as my mentor always says, and that's Miss Shirley Chisholm, who ran for president, you can't sit on the sidelines, so you have to get in the game. And I think Brother Talmud put it best. Just start rolling a ball. Just roll up your sleeves and get in the box and think out of the box. So you don't have to bounce a basketball or a football to be successful. You can own your own business, which black folks did, 40s and the 50s. You can be a scientist. You can contribute to the medical field. You don't have to be a physician. You can be a research scientist, geneticist. I mean, there's so many options. So we just have to introduce them to the options.
Sure. Thank you. Omar Baruti, final thoughts.
You know, this world belongs to the original man. And it was in the beginning.
and it will be in the end. But we must wake up.
All right, thank you. Thank everybody for coming out, being a part of the show today. Next week, we'll get into conflict resolution, and we'll talk more about some other research and documentation. Thank you for coming. Love power.
Come on, put your hands up. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
We out there, we good, we good.
Okay. Good.
Congresswoman, have to say it. Good job.
I needed a rest.
Good job. In a very difficult field.
Well, in 2020, my district should be redrawn, regaining an extra congressional seat. And then I have to testify tomorrow with the city attorney and call you